all know solopreneurship, entrepreneurship is a buzzword. Starting your own consultancy is great. But in those times, she started her own consultancy and in the learning and development field. She also worked as facilitator and learning coordinator for Microsoft, and then on to Storywalas around 2018, 5.5 years ago, when storytelling wasn't picking up speed, wasn't a stylish thing those days. So a fantastic journey. That's why courage is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Tanya. The other one, as I told in the beginning, is energy. So if you attend any of her sessions, so when I was quite worried that the session is being held during the lunch hour, a friend of mine told me, it is Tanya. So even if it is midnight, she knows how to engage. So yeah, energy. And the other thing is empathy or kindness. So whenever I attend her session, I feel so human. Even if there is an audience of 500 people, she has that connect with each person in the audience, and each of them leave the session feeling empowered, feeling a better human. Right? And whenever I connect with her and say, I'm nervous about this, including today's session, she comforts me. And I should be the facilitator, helping her settle down here, but it was the other way around. So definitely the empathy factor. So Tanya, I invite you, the magician, to unfold the magic and take us through a product storytelling session, which has a great title, an intriguing title called Who is the Hero?
Hi, good afternoon. Of course, enough pressure has been put, and I'm going to wait you up because it's lunchtime. So, how about all of you get up? Yeah. Being a spot where you can see me from, because if you can't see me, then you're in the wrong place. Because I'm going to keep standing where I'm standing, okay? We're going to do something which is called the say as I say and do as I do story. So whatever I say and whatever I do, you have to say and do with me. Okay, ready? Yes! Great, fantastic. Okay, we start now. Once there was a mountain. We'll do it again. There's a bit more energy, okay? Once there was a mountain. Once there was another mountain. On this mountain. Lived a goat. And on this mountain. Lived another goat. Now this goat. Was hungry. So it came down the mountain. Toing. There was grass on this side. There was grass on the other side. The grass on the other side was greener. There was a problem. There was a river. There was a solution. There was a bridge. So the goat went over the bridge. Tap, 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 tap. Hop, hop, hop. Tap, 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 tap. Toing. Now this goat was hungry. So it came down the mountain. Toing. There was grass on this side. There was grass on the other side. The grass on the other side was greener. There was a river. There was a bridge. So the goat went over the bridge. Tap, 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 tap. Hop, hop, hop. Tap, 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 tap. Toing. Next day. The goats were hungry. So they came down the mountain. Big problem. Narrow bridge. This one said, move. Why should I move? You move. Toing. Next day. Both the goats. Twice as hungry. Came down the mountain. Toing. Very sweetly. Very sweetly. So fun. Just money. Sure. Tuck, tuck, tuck. No pain. Okay. Well, hi, in case you missed it, my name is Tanya Mathur and I'm a storyteller. And we just got the evidence. I work for a Bangalore-based team and we call ourselves Storywalas. The name was chosen with complete humility because you know the word stories in English, everybody understands that, but the word walas is an Urdu word and it means a person who has a certain profession. Like there's a istri wala, in Bombay there are dabba walas, it is story walas, which is people who believe that the best way to get your ideas out into the world is through stories. But you don't have to take my word for it, okay? We're going to sort of experience that a little bit and see if in technology space too, stories can come in handy for us to talk about our products and place them well. Yeah? With me so far? Okay. So we're going to do a quick aptitude test. I categorically told Soumi, do not send a memo and don't tell people that we're going to do a test because then you wouldn't have shown up at all. So we played it safe. So there's an aptitude test, but it's not very difficult. It's like an open book test. I'm going to share some information with you. It's just a piece. Okay, it's something which is happening in the technology world. I'm pretty sure you guys are far better at it, as Swami told you, I'm a literature student. So I'm still grappling with technology. So you probably would be far ahead in your understanding. So I'm going to share something with you, and then I'm going to ask you follow-up questions. You just have to answer those questions. That's about it. Ready for it? Okay, so we begin now. Today what I want to share with you is about a technology which is called text-to-speech. How many of you have heard about it? How many of you have used it? Oh, fabulous. Great. So for those who are uninitiated, text-to-speech is a type of assistive technology that reads digital text aloud. With a click of a button or the touch of a finger, TTS can take words off a computer or any other digital device and convert them into audio. The voice in TTS is usually computer generated and the reading speed can usually be sped up or slowed down, and voice quality varies, but some voices do sound human. AI can now generate lifelike human voices from text by relying on several technologies like SSML and machine learning. It's now possible to incorporate non-speech sounds into the audio, teaching an AI model to reproduce small pauses in breathing that give real speech a stamp of biological authenticity. Now, isn't that exciting? I got very lame response. Isn't it exciting for you? Yes. How many of you will remember what I just shared with you, let's say a week from now, with a show of hands? Will you remember what I shared? Ouch. Like 3-4 people. That is a dismal, feedback. But it is true, right? When you share things the way I did, I did not make it easy for you to remember, to understand, comprehend, and then take anything back. I could have clearly done something differently. Shall we try doing it differently? Yes. Yeah? Okay. So, how many of you have watched the movie Top Gun with the show of hands? Oh, that's a lot of people. For those who haven't, please go watch movies. If you have not storytelling, you have to watch movies. And all the recommendations that I'm going to give you today, please make a note of those movies. So I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. My heart flutters, okay, when I look at Tom Cruise and I think about it. So Top Gun is one of my favorite movies of him. For the uninitiated, the name Top Gun was chosen for a reason. As you can see, there are these gentlemen who are the top brass in American Navy. So they have been pulled together to form a team called Top Gun to go on very critical missions, and they're being trained for it. You know what happens when lots of alphas come together, and there's a lot of ego rifts, etc. that happen. That's exactly what you're seeing on the screen at the moment. So the gentleman on the right is, of course, Tom Cruise. This is Val Kilmer. In fact, in the movie, Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise had much better chemistry with each other than Tom Cruise had with his heroine. So they changed the woman in the following movie that came 30 years too late. But the big point is these two had amazing chemistry, sizzling on the screen. Now, 30 years too late, the movie makers decided that why haven't we made part 2 of Top Gun yet? We should. You know how Tom Cruise is in Mission Impossible series, they have made billions out of that. This was a multi-million grosser, and they said we should totally capitalize on it. Now, if any movie maker thinks of making a sequel, and it's going to specially come after many, many years, what do you think? There's one thing that they need to keep consistent to make sure that audience like us shows up in theaters.
Hero.
Okay, you want the same hero. Okay, anything else?
You want the same villain.
You also want the same villain. Absolutely. Unless the villain died. Especially now you're on to something if you think about it. Because these two had amazing sizzling chemistry. And they are they're like the opposing forces, and they are so contrary to each other. Of course, they needed to get both of these gentlemen back in the movie. Now, while Tom Cruise is still cruising at 16 and is looking hotter than ever, not everybody ages the same way. Now, Val Kilmer, but it is no laughing matter, Neerja. Okay? Because Val Kilmer here didn't just age because of age. He was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2015. Till 2017, he kept it under wraps. He did not disclose it to anyone. His fans spotted him somewhere with these contractions around his neck. They wanted to know. It's like Arnab Goswami asking, there are fans who wanted to know what's going on with you. So he came clean and he told people that, well, I've got throat cancer. By 2019, he had gone through multiple surgeries and he had lost his voice completely. The movie makers were thinking of doing the remake sometime around 2020, 2021, and Val Kilmer not having a voice would not that pose a problem. How do you get an actor to be in a movie if he can't talk? Well, interestingly, this problem was solved by Sonantic. Now, Sonantic is a London-based startup, and they're doing some brilliant work. Okay, so they're working on something which is called human voice cloning technology. Well, I'm a literature student, I understand technology less, but I will sort of say it in a layman's term. Imagine a system where you can feed a lot of voice samples of someone. The system self-learns and self-teaches the natural pauses, etc. that a person would have, the pitch. You can hear me talk, right? I talk a little differently. All of us talk very differently. Our pitches are different, and sometimes we're looking at other people and thinking, oh, I wish I could talk like them. But we have our own voice patterns, tonalities, intonation, etc. And that is what sets us apart from other people. So if I'm talking to Neerja on the phone, and if we are close friends and we know each other's voices, it's very likely that even if she calls me from her daughter's number, and I might take about 10 seconds or 15 seconds, I might flounder, but I'll say, hey, Neerja, is that you? Because if she just starts talking, Tanya, I have something to ask you very quickly. And I think, who is this person? It's an unknown number. But then I can figure it's her if I know her voice well. And that is what the system does. And Val Kilmer being an actor, there's plenty of voice samples which are available to teach the system to speak like him. And that allowed, so Sonantic made it possible for Val Kilmer to show up in the movie. And for those people who haven't watched the movie yet, because part 2 was about Maverick, that's on your list. You should totally watch it. And I'm going to check that's on homework. And even if you think you're in a hurry to watch this scene, all you have to go to YouTube and type Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise in Maverick. There's a 3.5-minute scene which will pop up. Now, interestingly, the movie makers stayed very close to the truth here. The truth is Val Kilmer has a problem with his voice. Actually, he's lost it completely. But in the movie, they show that the character of Tom Cruise walks into the house and he wants to meet the gentleman that's Val Kilmer. His character is Iceman. He says, I'm here to meet Iceman, talking to the wife, and he asks, how is he doing? She says, it's here and there, he's obviously not well. So they were very real about it, that he's not well and he can't really speak. So in that scene and in that moment when they're sitting opposite each other, Tom Cruise has a verbal diarrhea. So he keeps on talking, and he's extremely emotional in the scene. But Val Kilmer is typing his response on a computer screen and literally a question or a phrase. But last 10 seconds, when they get up to hug and say goodbye, Val Kilmer speaks with a little bit of difficulty, pursing his lips, and you know that it's hard for him to speak, but he gets one sentence out. And when he spoke, my husband and I were sitting in the movie hall and we had tears rolling down our eyes, just feeling emotional that damn, he can't speak, but he's able to speak in the movie. And for fans like us, it was a big moment. And I know that world over, there were many people who knew about Val Kilmer's condition to be able to see him on screen. It was just so moving for us. Now, so narrative got so much of traction and importance after this movie came out that they actually got acquired by Spotify for millions of dollars. Now it's anybody's guess what Spotify is going to do with it. Possibly use it for RJ, radio jockeys, people dependent. Somebody's got stomach problems, somebody's got some other family problem. What if they don't show up for a show? But if you've got a human to voice cloning system, and imagine the system has been fed with the voice of an excellent radio jockey who's got a beautiful voice, like voice artists, and the voice exists there. All you have to do is give the system a script, and it will just, the show goes on. And interestingly, if you think that people are getting cheated, this kind of technology, text-to-speech and voice cloning, has made life way better for voice artists. Now they can work on multiple projects at the same time. Imagine voice artists used to lend their voices for gaming. Anybody who's into gaming, you've done online games. So for folks who played games earlier, the voices or the voiceover used to be very mechanical. So even if a character had to tell another character, I can't go with you, you murdered him. There's zero emotion. But then you've got a human voice talking with so much of humanity possible. So now a voice artist could lend their voice, get royalty, and do multiple projects at the same time. That's an exciting space, isn't it? So career possibilities open up with this technology. But just like there's a dark side to the moon and there's a dark side to pretty much everything, there's a dark side to AI. Can you predict what is the dark side of AI here?
You can clone the voice. No, very much worse.
Scams. Absolutely.
We had one recently involving a famous actress where I think her voice was being put over something. Yeah. Some.
In fact, Virat Kohli as well. I remember reading this news just a couple of 2, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Virat Kohli was seen promoting some sort of online gambling app or something.
Yeah, it was Sachin Tendulkar. Yeah, they had used his voice. They made Sachin Tendulkar voice for gambling match.
Yeah,
so that blasphemy in the name of having people, shoddy songs being sung by Kishore Kumar.
Yes. We are trying to bring all the great artists and the epic artists alive again with this. But there are more things which are happening. So how many of you make videos of yourself and they're out there on the internet somewhere? Reels? Oh my. That just blew me. Put your videos of you. Somebody's recorded, maybe interviewed you, right? And your voices are out there. And we have things to say and we put our voices out there. Now, imagine our voices are out there. Somebody could copy it and get us to say things that were never said by us. In fact, there are also abductor calls that could be made. That is something that happened in the US recently. So there was a couple and they got a call from an unknown number. The person said, we have your teenage daughter and we've abducted her and you've got to give us money so that we can give her back to you. They said, no, but we insist we want to speak to her. They got the parents to talk to the daughter. It sounded just like the daughter. Panic stricken, dad, mom, come get me, what's happening, this, that. No, I'm fine, but just come get me. They were so convinced it's her. So the dad went to the bank, took out the money. He was getting into the car and just about to drive off. And the mother had this brainwave and she said, they called us. We never called her. So they called her on a mobile phone. So she didn't answer the phone a couple of times, but then like a typical teenager stepped out, why are you calling me so many times? And they said, where have you been? She said, I was in class, I stepped out because you wouldn't stop calling me. And they said, but we thought, somebody's got you and you've been abducted. No, I'm fine, I'm at school. So they said, okay, we are coming to get you, you stay where you are. So it was clearly, the voice had been picked up to make a quick buck. Now, this is one of the most commonly reported scams in the US today, the imposter scam. The big question is that, every technology has a potential to be used for good, like for voice artists and for people who have lost voices. Ask my daughter, Trisha, who's 11 years old and who's sitting at the back right now, wave at people. Okay. So, I travel quite a bit, and there are times when I'm gone a week, and she doesn't go to bed without a sleep story. So I was just thinking, imagine if we could use this technology where I can choose the story that needs to be told. And instead of her hanging on to the phone and insisting Mama would go to sleep on the phone telling me the story, if the system or technology could just read a bedtime story, I hope we don't have to do that. I lost my mother a few years ago, 3 years ago to COVID. And sometimes I wish we had this, I could just get it to say things to me. There is so much good that we can do with it. But provided we are thinking about tech for good. So I'm leaving you with a question that there's always a dark and the light side of everything. I hope you'll make better choices. And when you are working on your products, you will sort of put guardrails and have some sort of governance model to make sure that it's not used for something bad. Now my question to you is, how many of you would remember what I just shared with you about text-to-speech technology, let's say a month from now, with a show of hands? That's better. What changed? The story. That is evidence that we can tell all the facts we want, and we can sound super intelligent that I've got all my big technical words in place. But the biggest challenge of communication in this day and age is, first of all, that language gets in the way. We use words that not everybody understands. You may have folks in the audience with different levels of, even tech experts could be different. We have people who from mining industry, and doing technology. We've got, all doing mining when they're not from that particular space. So we have people crossing over. So there are no more boundaries left. So it's futile to assume that everybody's at the same level of understanding. So language gets in the way. Stories help simplify concepts and ideas. And the second challenge is if we only keep using text like I did the first time around when I showed you 5 bullet points, people don't necessarily remember, and they walk out thinking something I heard, but I barely remember anything. 1 week or 1 month later, it's all washed out. So you want, whenever you speak, that whatever you say should stay with the people. And that's where stories come in. Now, let's see, so what is in a story anyway? Okay, allow me to share this with you, because I owe you some tips on how you curate your own stories. Yeah, so what's in a story anyway? Let's look at, because I'm a big movie buff, okay, so you have to get used to this. Everything is from movies. So people who don't watch movies, please watch TV. Yeah. Now, which movie is this? What is the theme of the movie? Any one person. Put your hand up, I'll make you to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Hockey player.
I'm old and aging and I'm hard of hearing. So you have to speak up, stand up and throw your voice at us.
Ex-hockey player who teaches a team of girls to win a hockey match.
Why are the stakes so high for him? Anybody could have come and told these girls no? What else is going on in the story?
So this is Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
I know everything about Shah Rukh Khan.
Oh, you feel about Shah Rukh Khan, how I feel about all.
So there's only 2 things in life that give permanent happiness: Sonu Nigam and Shah Rukh Khan.
Oh.
All right. So here's this guy who has been slightly held responsible for a defeat of India in one of the high stakes India versus Pakistan hockey games. And if you're not born in the 80s like me, you wouldn't understand how high stake that was. High stakes hockey game. And so he's kind of come back to redeem himself, to take an improbable bunch of ragtag hockey players and take them to win World Cup championship. And these girls are all like, coming from different states. And his most favorite dialogue is, मुझे states के नाम सुनाई नहीं देते हैं, सिर्फ एक देश का नाम सुनाई देता है.
Oh, wow. I tried to do the you know what's happening in that movie, and somehow has to stop responding. Which one is this? Very old. How many of you don't know about this movie? Put your hand up. I don't have that generation.
That's okay. That's okay.
This was looking embarrassed and she's refusing to put her hand up. It's a brilliant movie. Do we have any enthusiasts who would like to tell them what's happening in this movie? Anyone? Okay.
Yeah, this is about the time during the British era,
Yeah.
and I think at that point in time there was a drought for many years, and farmers were not able to pay the whatever tax that the Britishers were paying on.
Is tax.
Yeah. So basically, at that point in time, I think they had a few people, Britishers, officers were playing cricket, and they said that if you can beat us in this, then for the next at least 3 years or so, we will let you go off, not pay the lagan.
Yeah.
So that is why. So these people were not trained to play, because we British, before the British era, we would play probably gulli danda and more hockey, not cricket.
Yeah.
So Amir Khan basically got these people, and the very interesting part was that he kind of spotted, like, I don't remember the name of that character who could spin the ball. Somebody, he was disabled and he had a disability, but he used that for as a strength.
Exactly.
Right? So he got these very diverse 11 people onto his team, and they actually beat the British.
So imagine beating the English at a game that they created, and these guys are new to it, and the only way to get off paying a 3-year-long debt in tax, which was overdue, is to beat them at their own game. Stakes were clearly very high. What does it tell you about stories? Stories are. I think we got connected there somehow. Somehow easy, but that's all right. Did I pick up the wrong? I think you have the wrong one. I picked up the wrong one. So they all look identical, and that's why why things need to look different. And even if you have a story, stories need to look different, because if we have the same story being recycled over and over again, after a while they will all seem the same, and that's what's happening in ChatGPT too. And us generating our LinkedIn posts, they all look exactly the same. But every story has a conflict. If you don't have conflict in your story, you don't have a story, because it's only a series of events. The only way to engage your audience is to find what is at stake and what is the conflict. So you've got to identify the conflict. Let's have a little bit of fun. Because I'm a TV addict, of course I'm going to give you some more opportunities to do some guesswork and figure out conflicts. But typically in any story you would have a character. The character would have a goal. They have to go to an end point, whatever their outcome is. Here in Lagan, it could be paying off the Lagan, beating them at a game, etc. And there in Chak De, it's about training a team to get them to feel like India and play together. But there are always obstacles in the way, and the obstacles could come in many, many different ways. That obstacle leads the hero to go on an eternal struggle. But heroes are rarely alone, right? There are always people who come to help them, like Bahubali. Bahubali would not have been a hero had there not been Kattaka. Don't forgetting Shivagami also. Very, very important. So there are many characters that come to help our character and our hero win in the journey and overcome their struggles. And then of course there's a final resolution. Everything goes back to being better than it was before. With me so far, you've seen or read enough books or at least seen a few movies that you know the drill. I'm going to play an ad for you. It's a Heineken ad. You know Heineken is a beer? So you have to spot what is the conflict for the character here. Okay? You have to understand stories to be able to create your own. So this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to play that ad for you here. And okay, now a bit of context. World's one of the most beautiful and sexiest women, Jennifer Aniston, is in this ad. So you can imagine the stakes have already gone. He's a geek. He's a Kudu person. Okay? And he spots Jennifer Aniston, who's like, oh my god, killer sexy. So now you tell me, what is the conflict for him? And let's understand the story format here. I hope the voice sound play. that you need you, and you would be. No matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me. So happy together.
Okay, now that's it. So you saw what happened. Our character, he spots this woman trying to reach up to the two final last remaining bottles of beer. What is the conflict do you think in his life?
To choose between beer and wine.
To give or not to give. Why do you think he took them away and he did not give it to Jennifer Aniston?
Last
It was too nice.
He was really disappointed but trying to talk to Jennifer Aniston mic.
Can we clap for her? And he said, "Ladki to वैसे भी नहीं है." I'm going to get the girl because look at me and look at her. I'll give her the beer also. I'll use the beer also. And girl is not going to look at me anyway. So what is the point? And he chose his, he placed his bet on the beer. So he took both of the beers back with him. With me so far?
Yes.
Now I'm going to show you another ad. And in this ad, it's a popular Dairy Milk ad. Do you remember some of the taglines that Dairy Milk used to have? Okay, so there used to be one which is called Shubharam. That anything that starts should start with some sweetness. Okay? Now you have to spot the conflict in this character's life. Alright? Let's go ahead and see. Brides and bridegroom. So here's a girl running away from home. On the mantelpiece, there was a picture of the parents.
शुभ काम करने जा रही हूँ कुछ मीठा नहीं खाओगी काम अच्छा होगा
There's a girl, she's running away from home. You understand the meaning of the word dahliz? What is dahliz in English? Boundary. What is that in English? Threshold. It's a threshold. And she's going to cross over that threshold. She's going to leave her maryada behind. She's going to leave her family behind, the love that she has shared with them, because she doesn't have the courage to tell them that she loves someone. It's a huge step for a girl to leave her family behind and then choose to go with one guy she's recently met because she can't introduce him. That is the conflict, big conflict, that she has to leave something behind in order to embrace something else and to move on in life. Do we understand conflict here? Did you also notice that in both the brands ads that you saw, Heineken and this one, the resolution happened in the favor of the brand? Did you realize that the resolution happened in the favor of the brand? The brand was chosen, Heineken was chosen by that geeky guy because he wasn't going to get Jennifer Aniston anyway. And in the Dairy Milk ad, again it is in the favor of the brand. She's going to go anyway, she's running away. But a chocolate ad which talks about sweetness and bringing people together, they have to show that everything resolves and they come together. With me so far?
Yes.
What if I throw, how much time do I have left?
I would say 10 to 15 minutes.
Are you guys okay? 10 to 15 minutes? Okay. So now, do you think the story would change if we placed the last chocolate instead of Heineken? How do you think the story will pan out now? That's a question for you. I'm replacing Heineken with the last bar of chocolate. The gentleman, the girl is trying to reach for that chocolate. She can't quite reach it yet. He spots her. He's the one who can reach the chocolate. How do you think it should get resolved? They'll sit in the mall steps at the back and lick the chocolate and you don't know what else is going on. You can imagine. So, but it gets resolved in the favor of the brand. Will the story change if the girl is running away from you? In the refrigerator, there are only last 2 bottles of beer left. How do you think the story should end now? Take the bottle of chill. She should drink it with the family. ये है हमारे पास storyteller. Drink it with the family. Probably she will sit and they will all share and take a swig of beer because it has to resolve in the favor of the brand. But the brand here, it's also in the Indian context reads here. It's a little tricky as to how they end it. Either she can be totally careless and say, we'll go on a cliff and drink beer and nahi jana yaar, let's go back home, let's buy more Henneken.
Yeah.
So it could be that. But a conflict always resolved in the favor of the product, in the favor of the brand. With me so far?
Yes.
Yeah. Now let's move forward a little. Let's see who is the hero in your story when you have a product. Who do you think should be the hero in your story? Is it the product that's the hero? It's not confidence. How much time we spend making that product? Sheepishly you're saying. I have to. But you are never the hero. Your team, which has worked extremely hard to build the product, is now the hero. It's always the customer, while the solution will be provided by the product and it will resolve in the favor of the product. But the product placement and where the product is not important. Did you notice in all the stories that we looked at, there are characters which are coming in. There are people that are coming in because they are consumers and users who use a certain product. Now, I'm going to share with you a 5-line story, spine. First of all, let's understand the meaning of the word spine. Human bodies have spines. What is the function of a spine in a human body? To give us support, structure and dignity. You're very lucky if you have a strong spine. You could walk, you could probably sit in the cab or drive yourself and come and sit here. And people who don't have the use of their spines and they're not very strong, that they reach their bounds sometimes, right? Or bedridden. So all of us are very blessed that we have stronger spines. And just like our spine gives us dignity and structure to hold ourselves upright, a story also needs a spine. It needs a structure to give it dignity. With me so far? So now I'm going to share with you the 5-line story spine of how you curate your product story where you're not the hero. So you are not the Bahubalis of your story, okay? You are the Katappas and you are the Shivagamis because ultimately it's the characters who are going to win. Your users and customers who are going to win in the market. You come in as vendors. Your product comes in at the right time to enable them, to propel them in the right direction. With me? Okay. So here's the 5-line story structure of story spine. Always start with a backstory. Anchor your story in the context of your character, whoever your character is. Interestingly, a character doesn't necessarily always need to be one single human. It could be one organization which is struggling to achieve their results possibly. But even before I get to the struggle, remember there's a character, so we give context and backstory and we put them in place and time. Place and time are extremely crucial for any character placement to be done. Why? Okay, let me take an example to make you understand how important place and time can be. I was in Bombay 17 years ago and it was my first trip to Bombay ever. When I was about to check into the hotel, I realized my wallet was missing and my wallet had my identification and all money and my cards. That says, I was in Bombay last week. I was about to check into the hotel when I realized, oh God, I don't have my wallet in my bag. Do you think the way that the story moves forward, it will be different from what happened 17 years ago to now? What is the big change which has taken place since then? Technology. We have digital apps, etc. So we've got our identification and payment apps, etc. on the phone. So now you understand how important place and time can be. What if I changed it to, I was in Tumkur last week and I realized I don't have my wallet. I did have my phone, but please remember I was in Tumkur. Do you think the story could have another outcome? And not as breezy as it would have been in Bombay? What is the, no? They may not have network, even if they have Paytm. Yeah, up to Paytm ही नहीं है. So they are facing challenges of Paytm. Huh?
We influence we have.
I am so embarrassed. You may have technology, everything in control.
Sorry.
We have technology.
On the same point, last month I traveled to the tallest bridge in the world. This is in the Upper Himalayas, and there are 2 towers. Airtel as well. So that's very cool.
But you go to Manali, you have to have cash. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Airtel doesn't.
I managed my entire 15-day trip in Upper Himalayas without a wallet.
Yeah. Thankfully, Airtel has put their towers in. But remember Vodafone? Given that they're taken out that ad, wherever you go, our network follows. Remember the dog? People used to want to touch puppy, they didn't even know what it was pup. But okay, now the big point is whenever you're talking about a character, you will have a character, you will put the character in place and time, and you will give context as to what they do. So let's assume you are working with a client and they're in the healthcare industry. So you have to talk about healthcare industry. They are one of the top players in healthcare today, or this is how their work was being done so far. So you have to clarify how things work. Alright? And this is just giving context. And then there has to be a trigger event. Something changes in the hero's world. So be it a singular character, which is a person who works in a healthcare industry called Gautam, who sits on the 3rd floor, or it could be the entire organization. You can choose whether you're telling a macro level story of an organization that fits into an industry, or a single character who works for a company and their daily job is to do something, they do it manually, etc. With me so far? I'm taking 2 parallel examples of an individual or an organization. Now there is a trigger event, something changes. Now trigger could be an internal, intrinsic trigger where you think something needs to change and we need to grow. We have set goals or targets for our organization that we need to, we have like a $400 billion mark, etc. that we have to achieve, and for that, we can't achieve that unless we change something. So it could be an intrinsic trigger. Sometimes it's an outside trigger. Somebody else has done something in the industry. FOMO, fear of missing out. They're doing something we haven't done. We have to catch up. But some trigger happens where the character realizes there's a need for change. And whenever they think there's a need for change, there will be obstacles that will come on the journey of change, and they realize it's not as easy to change as they thought it would be. With me so far? I'll give you evidence, I'll show a story to you so that you understand it better. And when the transformation journey begins, this is where you come in. Do you realize that in your own product and your own success story, you don't even enter the picture in the 4th step. In the first 3 steps, while you're building your story, you're just talking about the customer, how they are placed in an industry, what's going on with them. They feel there's a need to change and they can't do it on their own because they're struggling. And there comes you and your product, entry happens, and now you're going to help them change and go on that transformation journey. 3 things to remember when you're building a transformation story. The first thing is ask yourself, when you're telling the story, that are you going to simplify something which is extremely complex? Maybe you're going to take out a couple of steps, because right now when they do something manually, it is too complex, it is too hard. So are you going to simplify? So transformation stories require simplification. Then it's a good story. Yeah, it was too complex, it was too hard, we're going to simplify it. Take, for example, have you guys used, I guess like Google has that thing, where you can keep posting. There is a word for it. Is it Google Notes?
Google Keep.
Google Keep. I recently heard a friend is using Google Keep, and he was planning a trip across Europe, and he's going to go for a month. And he said it's become so easy now because I'm going to travel with my family. So all the tickets, itinerary, even his wife is crazy about the what is that called on Instagram? He keeps saving places, this is the place to go. So he says, we're making a note of if this is the city, this is the town, these are the places we want to go, and we keep tagging. Everything's going on Google Keep. Life has become so simple because they won't, otherwise half the time we reach places and we say, oh, we didn't see it, we forgot about it. We have made a note. But you have everything in one place. Is it going to simplify? Instead of you being scattered, it's all in one place. That's an example of simplification. The second question to ask yourself is, are we solving a big problem? A pain area that a customer or a client has, are we solving that pain area? Because without us, it wouldn't get solved. They will continue to feel it. But I have a question for you because you're in the product space. Do customers always know that they have a pain? No. Sometimes they don't even know it's pain. Until you make them realize it is painful, you never figured. And once you make it obvious to them that it is painful and life could be way simpler, they see there's a reason for them to solve the problem. So figure what is that big problem that you're trying to solve. Let me take an example of, I remember very vaguely, there used to be a Havel's ad. Havel, they make wires, copper wires, etc., right? And it is a beautiful ad. There's a construction site. Havel boldness is because story you've heard, you never forget. That's evidence. And in that ad, because the mother, they're on a construction site, the mother is making roti, pulkas, okay, and she doesn't have a tong. So she's doing it with her hand, fufu. And the chota sa bachcha is playing around, okay, and he feels, oh my god, my mom's fingers are burning every time she's making roti. So he runs along and he finds a wire. He makes a tong out of it, like chinta it's called in Hindi. And he gives it to Mama, and Mama flips roti with it. It doesn't catch fire. Now, if you look at it, they have already simplified something which is complicated at this point in time. It's a big problem. What if she burns her fingers and it's painful? And the third thing that they ended up doing in this ad was they showed enablement. Okay, that they're enabling that child. It's so easy to work with the wire that he could make a tong. But wires are not used for making tongs. What was the big idea?
Insulation. It doesn't catch fire.
It won't catch fire. Now, it's also about what kind of emotions are you evoking in your audience. Imagine showing, everything is crumbling and falling apart, but my wire is going to stay. Who wants to imagine that kind of world? I don't want to be scared, and you putting me there as a character and showing, if the ghar burns down, you're going down, but my wire is going to stay. I don't want to do that because it's too horrifying imagery to imagine our house is burning down, but the big idea was it will not catch fire. It's, so you're fireproof and fire resistant, etc. And they did it in a very gentle way. So sometimes products may be fitting into somebody's world for like making a parachute, but you don't want to say everything is coming apart, our parachute will definitely deploy and land safely. I don't want to imagine it. You can show me the same thing in other ways, like for Vodafone we were talking. How else do you show network? You show Chotu Poppy, running after that friend as a loyal friend. So sometimes your products may be solving a major problem, but if it's a problem that is going to evoke negative emotions and people don't want to imagine it, look for metaphors. Look for another way of showing it. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. Now I can't say, well, this happened. This is our product and it can solve your problems. And it will also enable you to do things on your own. Now you don't have a reliance on other people and pulling them in. You can do it on your own. That's it. How many of you are guilty of sometimes ending your product pitches and stories with that's it? Show of hands. Have you ever ended a meeting or presentation with that's it? You haven't? I refuse to believe it. A lot of us have finished our presentations or pitches and we have said, that's it. And there's nothing more to say, but we don't want to end with that's it. We must, if we've begun well and if we have built a good story, then we must end well. So end with the final resolution, because now the world of the customer has changed forever and it's a much better world from how they started before. With me so far? And I'm going to end with just one final ad for you, but I have to give you a bit of context. You know that Google search engine is one of the most widely used search engines in the world. Is it safe to say? I'm hazarding a guess But barring China, where they have their own search engines, pretty much everywhere else in the world, or maybe North Korea, everybody else is using Google, correct? So maybe Google, I don't know the exact numbers, I'm taking a guess. Imagine if they had to talk about our search engine is the best in the world and most avidly used. They could make tall claims and make themselves into heroes, right? And they could say that, well, Google search engine is the best in the world and it has 94% usership and customer base, etc., etc. But who's the hero in this story? Google is, and their product is, and their services, which is search engine. But Google didn't say it like this. Because what does Google search actually, who does Google search enable? Us as users and consumers, right? And that is exactly what Google did many, many years ago. And I'm going to share this ad with you. I'm sure you've seen it. And this is my final video. You must enjoy it, okay? And it's a beautiful one.
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ लौड़े यासीन लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट पापा आ जाते थे। रोज शाम को अपने वहाँ पतंगें उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ की दुकान से झंझरिया चुरा के खानी।
झंझरिया?
मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली।
छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी दांत लेके बांधे। हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
फासिल स्वीट्स?
हाँ जी। दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है।
हेलो।
यूसुफ अंकल?
कौन?
जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से, आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती। याद है बचपन में हम दोनों झंझरिया चुरा के खाते थे?
बचपन में छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी काट ले बांधे। एक पतंग सा उड़ता था परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह। दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
पार्टीशन के वक्त हम रातों रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए। यूसुफ जी बड़ी याद आती है।
कागजों की कश्तियों में डूबा रहता था, झांकती खिड़कियों में उलझा रहता था। वो भी क्या दौर था, मन पे न जोर पाए दौर था, मन मन मोर था। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
हाँ जी। कौन? हैप्पी बर्थडे यार।
The best stories are the ones which are told with humility and grace. Now here the product was not the hero, but they very subtly showed how they're enabling people. They didn't even know they had a problem to solve. Did Baldev go out thinking that somebody is going to help me look for you. So we have given up. Our separation happened so many years ago, but the problem got solved. The grandkids were enabled to solve that problem, correct? And it was a simple way of doing it instead of now. And you know, at the time when this ad came out in 2013, 2014, this is the time when Indian government had signed some sort of temporary, whatever, peace treaty kind of thing with Pakistan. There were these Samjhauta Express, the trains which were going, buses that were going, and enabling people to meet each other. Even if I want to meet, how do I know where they are now? And that's what Google search engine did. In the changing times, in that context they showed, use us. This is the time to ask us to locate. You know, now world has changed. All of us uproot ourselves. I grew up in Delhi. I was born and brought up there, and I live in Bangalore now. But some of those people who have lived in old places, they still, you know, back in the day, they were still living there. It became easier to locate. But you saw the pattern. There was a character. The character had, the trigger happened, that feeling of nostalgia, enabled grandkids. And Google search kept coming in, but in a very subtle way. It wasn't very obviously in the face. I hope you can tell your product stories with same kind of humility and grace. Think of who your product enables and tell that story well. And reach out if you want to. I go by Tanya Mathur Bhattacharya. You can find me on LinkedIn. Inbox me. Happy to have a chat and have a conversation. And take it forward. I wish you well, and I wish you the power of stories. Tell them well. Thank you.